So everybody that worked for us is either a vice president or a president at a different record label or music company. It's just crazy to me. I'm just happy for everybody, you know.
Little things like that. But let's get into the heart of the episode. We had to talk about that. I know people have been blowing up our DMs about it, but let's talk about Roc-A-Fella. Let's talk about shout out to Moose. If you're watching the video, he has this really nice Chris Plains hat now that is red that I'm really feeling that I just realized in the middle of this.
Right. It's so fitting that we're talking about Roc-A-Fella with this hat on. Yeah.
Right. So Moose passed me a interview with Biggs, who is one of the 3 people that owned Roc-A-Fella, and what the original reason for it, I had to switch it because there is something that doesn't really get talked about a lot when it comes to Roc-A-Fella, and it is the birth of so many different entrepreneurs, and that mainly everybody that came from Roc-A-Fella, whether you were on the street team or whether you were one of the artists, have successfully done something, right? And so what was that culture about? What kind of leadership was brought about? So we got a clip.
In the beginning, we definitely wanted to birth entrepreneurs, right? By setting fire to that path and leading the way. At the time, we were trying to think about how to make the artists coming up bosses so they could have their own record companies and music labels and their own staff, because at that time we knew we were transitioning out. The young men and women, they was able to feel more relaxed and then feel comfortable getting into a role of leadership themselves. And we also gave a lot of leadway for these young women and men to do their own things and to have their own ideas. So everybody that worked for us is either a vice president or a president at a different record label or music company. It's just crazy to me. I'm just happy for everybody, you know. Even the street team, you know, I'm looking at now, they have real estate companies and things like that.
Man, yeah, I've been on these Biggs interviews heavy the last 2 or 3 weeks, just because I felt for me it's important to study the history, but also just really understand the mentality behind how did they build one of the best brands technically, right, in hip hop and in music. But I love what he's saying here because, and this is just in my personal study, especially over the last couple of months, I've been paying attention to what people say about legacy and generational wealth. And while there's a lot of enthusiasm around that topic, there isn't as much enthusiasm around succession planning. So succession planning is what's known to be, especially in corporate America or business leaders, they all know about that the mark of every great career is you prepare the next person to take over your role successfully. Yeah. You don't just sit there and say, oh, I'm at the top, I'm winning, I'm creaming, I'm killing the game, I'm just gonna soak it all up. At some point, you need to start thinking about, okay, how can I position the next person, even if that may maybe dim the light on my stardom a little bit, because I'm now putting someone else in position to come and take over my spot. But when the true win for, say, the company or the brand, when that win is truly the best interest of everyone, you start thinking about more than just yourself. So my favorite part about this clip here is, you know, how he's telling you, like, the idea was to always put other people in position to learn how to lead and how to win. So it's a mark. Like, I think it's definitely one of those things that should allow us to think to ourselves as business people, yo, who am I putting in position? Who am I preparing? Who am I taking along with me to learn a lot of the things that I've learned that took me years, right? Because I do believe that that's the beautiful thing about legacy. You're able to teach your family, whether they be family members or non-family members, but you're able to teach them a lot of what you took years to acquire in a short amount of time so that they can avoid making the mistakes that you've made. And more importantly, I believe it's for the betterment of the brand, the company, or the business. Now you got young talent that are taking over the reign. You got younger people who are going to extend the lifeline of your brand or your business, because at some point you might get tired, you might get bored, you might not have the same edge. But when you put someone younger in there, got better ideas, and they're more in tune with what is more relevant, what's more popular. How can I infuse that with something that we've always done? And I know there's some concern about like, things always take a dip when, the next generation takes over. It's not entirely true, right? Like if you train them right, I don't think that's the case. They're able to protect the legacy, but also bring about some innovation that can take it to a new level.
I look at it, that's extremely good, first off, because that hasn't happened to me. You feel me? But besides that, really, it's gonna make people feel bad, like they're not doing this for me. I know.
Right.
Half of y'all, I get it, right? No, but what I don't know if people caught on to it in the middle of it. Roc-A-Fella had always a plan to sell, right? They looked at the whole, like, rappers pretty much have like a 4 or 5 year lifespan. Let's take advantage of this situation. Let's create something amazing, and then let's sell it. Now, you would know more about this, but from what I heard, the point of building a business is to sell it, right? A lot of people tend to do that. Now, there's some that is like, I'm a for lifer, I'm going to keep this for the rest of my life, then get presented with a really nice fat check, and they're like, I don't know if I'm a lifer. I'm just,
I'm going to do a different life.
I thought of this business, I could do this again, right? So understanding that if business are created meant to sell, why isn't that mindset of making sure that the people are good and they are not only being able to take over the next position and the next position, but in order to take over the next position for their life, if they already know this right here may not last for multiple reasons, whether you outgrew the position or whether this business is about to be under complete new management or completely bought out. Like,
yeah,
I question that, but then as understanding for leadership training, looking within and be like, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I set up the guys a little bit better in order, because even me, I haven't really thought of, we're just starting. So I can't think of selling, and we're just starting, right? But then there are that mindset of you need to think at the end in mind, right? So how can we set up, these people for better success, right? And not just saying, oh, you're exposed to this, or you have these opportunities and these doors are open and things like that, which is all great and very big and fluffy words. It's extremely big and fluffy words. But what Roc-A-Fella did was legit, like, this is like how they did with Cam, right? Cameron, for those people who don't know, is a rapper from Harlem. Created a whole movement with Dipset, for those who don't know, right? Hence why New York was wearing pink for a very long time. That's because of them. So when Cam came to Roc-A-Fella, he was positioned as a high exec, as well as having, their own record label for Dipset. Why? Because Cam came at the later years and they already knew what time it was. So let's make sure if you do come here that you are set up perfectly for when this transitions and there's no setbacks or anything like that. Like you know how you have to move. You almost have to move a little bit independent in order to do this. And now my question, thinking about that, is because we've covered here as well as just certain other companies as well, is like we do stuff for you, but sometimes we want you to do it yourself. And is that a tactic of we want you to grow on your own kind of situation? Like I'm thinking about it now that this is kind of brought up, and I'm like, oh, are you doing that tactic? Like, let me, like that parent that's like, okay, you're crying. I'm not going to pick you up each and every single solitary time.
I mean, it's two different frame of thought. In my opinion, I don't think that's the thing, right? Because it's one thing to say, I don't want you to.
I was trying to give some leaders.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Because you know why? Like, and Biggs talks about it in some of his interviews. He talks about how Jay didn't want to he didn't want to take a picture with any of their artists or he wouldn't do a feature with any of their artists because he didn't want them to blow up because he was on there. That's a different story. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, I'll help you. I'll make sure you don't fail. But I'm not going to be the only reason why you succeed. That's the difference. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference, because that means you need me to stay alive.
Right.
But if I teach you how to do it on your own and I'm just kind of like guiding you from behind, that's a different move. So I don't think that it's a bad thing, but the fact that you just say, nah, I'm not going to get involved at all. You go in on your own. You give people the thought, well, maybe I should just go do it on my own all together then. You know, like if I'm not getting anything real here, because it becomes difficult to ask too. Like when you have that type of leadership, it's difficult to say, okay, I think I need help. Should I ask? No, I'm not going to ask. You know, and it's like you have that type of relationship, which is like, it puts that thought in people's heads. Yeah, and I might just go break it off and do it on my own.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is a little too close to home. We're gonna get into this next.
Good topic.
But no, and in all seriousness, people, like, for those who are leading other people, right? You may feel personal about this one, like, yo, are they really grooming me for success? That's the same topic, but a whole nother feeling, right? It's really brought up from a leadership standpoint of we have teams, and though we look for loyal people to stay with us and things like that, at the same time, like, are we, and I don't like saying grooming because that just sounds bad, but I can't think of another word right now. Are we grooming them for success? Can they hold their own without this particular platform, this particular company, things like that? But with a challenge of not also feeling as if you don't care.
Exactly.
That's the important part.
That's the balance. Yep, that's the balance. You don't want to be the reason why they win, but your absence shouldn't be the reason why they fail either. You know, that's that balance to it.